That we are. So same protocol as it's been. We're going to give everybody some time to hop on in, find the live feed, enjoy the nice air-conditioned room. It's been quite warm outside. They're whispering over there.
Yeah, the usual.
The usual figure it out.
What's that? Because if you get some questions, you're gonna be sending them.
Well,
Phil, your wife says hello.
hello, Carol. We found it before we started.
We can discuss our technical issues with the workaround because our moderator has a flip phone today.
Yeah, we'll get into our special guest moderator here at some point in time. But
All right. I'm
yay.
streaming on the right page this time around, so
That is a very good point. If we're not sideways, if you can
No, we are
properly
sideways.
hear us, then we're already on the right track.
Yeah, I think we've done good the first few live stream, and then every week.
Hey,
it's
you know,
been
hit a little bit of a
something new.
a road bump here or there, but you know, we're creative people, creative problem solvers, so nothing that we can't tackle that way.
Yeah. Trying.
Just getting more and more proficient with our new virtual lives here at the winery.
And it seems like we're gonna be ongoing for a little bit more.
A little bit more, yeah.
Saturday live, so. Oh well.
Which is nice. In fact, yeah, depending on traffic flow, looks like this room will be secured for some time.
Yeah, pretty close now. Although today we get the garage door open onto the cellar, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And again, a much more amenable temperature to work in than out in the vineyard this last week, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yeah. Oh, I got some color. I put my 3 layers of sunscreen all along the weeks there, but we reach pretty high temps again, but super nice. So it is a nice cool day inside for sure.
Nice. So again, if you're hopping in, we're just kind of giving everybody a little bit of time to get in before we commence with DTH Live. Yeah, just a little random roundtable.
No, I'm gonna take that opportunity because last night I opened up a bottle of wine. It was actually the Skins, the Grenache, one of my favorite here, the 17 vintage, and I had it with some very nice seafood spicy sauce on it, like a Cajun style sauce on shrimps. It was delicious. So much so that I finished the bottle. So I was already tired of the day. After a few glasses of wine and a good amount of food, I was in bed by 9 o'clock yesterday.
Nice.
Slept like a baby.
Nice.
All right. Brandon says that Instagram is sideways.
It always is.
Okay.
I've yet to find a solution for that, besides putting the phone up, but that's not working either.
Okay.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Ready to go? What time is it?
12:02.
All right. So welcome back. We have a very special guest producer in today. It'll be a little quieter without producer Brandon about. We might actually have to bump the mic up a little bit instead of keep moving it away from Brandon each week. But producer Brandon's moving into a new house they purchased. So congrats, producer Brandon. Hopefully the move is going smooth. And if not, hopefully, your wine stores are good enough to ease the pain and the soreness of the moving.
Yeah, he's gonna have a busy day. I don't envy him for sure. I do not like moving.
No, I've done it enough times now myself where it's not something that I would be super eager to hop into. In his instance, yeah, it's they've been looking forward to getting in this house that they purchased earlier in the year. So that said, our special guest is producer Will. Producer Will handles a bunch of the producer-esque things for the winery behind the scenes all the time. It's like if you put your orders in and you've been receiving them, you have Will to thank for receiving the orders. So thank you, Will, for keeping the wine flowing around here. As we mentioned before we kind of formally got rolling, we were on the horn with the Passive Wine Alliance. Thank you, Passive Wine Alliance, for putting on yesterday's Zoom meeting, kind of giving us an idea of kind of some potential policies we have and when we're looking like opening potentially. That's still largely in the air, but it does look like we're at least a couple weeks out before we're doing anything that way. So the Saturdays it shall be for at least another couple weeks, which is great because we've lined up some guests for them and are kind of looking for it. I'm happy to be able to kind of keep it the same and keep these people coming in. So that's good. And then congratulations, Lori Thompson.
Yeah, the winner of the last week's gift card. So
Yep.
Super nice. Thank you very much for tuning in again and answering the questions. We'll be doing another one today at some points regarding the topics that we're going to be discussing. And congratulations again. And we should get some wine with that and drink it away.
Absolutely. So Cyril, what's new this week? You said you're getting a little bit of color. What you guys out there doing?
I get some color, and I must say I did a pretty good workout on my legs as well, actually. So we've been doing shoot thinning. So we were talking about it, I think, a little bit last week, and this week we went full on with it. Good news is, as of today, the vineyard is completely done. So we had a couple of guys helping us out, quite a good amount of guys helping us out the past few days there, but it's a necessary step for the vines to kind of clean them up a little bit, kind of control the growth on them as well, and make sure we focus the energy of the plant within the shoots that we want and the fruits that we want on it. So very important for the training, especially with all the new plantings that we've done this past year. It's a very important steps there to keep the plants growing the way we want it to. So pretty happy with this being done. That was a big task last week in my mind, and that's a good accomplishment. So I think that's also part of why I slept pretty well last night.
Yeah, I would say so. You kind of came in definitely looking like you got some exercise each day out there. It is very tiring, and there's a lot of vines out there. Each row is a lot longer than it looks once you're actually shoot thinning, for sure. But the vineyard looks absolutely fantastic. It's a major accomplishment, especially given the fact that given current circumstances and labor stuff that way, that it's been done with fewer hands. And Terry's come out of tractor retirement and helped out as well. But the vineyard is looking spectacular right now. I'm really excited about it. Nice.
Yeah. How about you? Anything? Coming up this week?
Just continuing to kind of move some stuff around. We have 2 bottling scheduled for the summer, so now everything from here on out is geared towards prepping the wines for those 2 bottlings, and then we are also kind of kicking the tires on a couple of unique small lot blends that we don't normally do, but just something fun that we can kind of whip up in the cellar. So. We'll see. I don't have too much to say for that yet because that's in process right now. But we're doing that. We're keeping an eye out. I've kind of got an ear to the ground about fruit in Santa Rita Hills area for the Pinots and things like that to get an idea of what this year will look like in terms of that project as well. Nice. But everybody's happy with the fruit and the fruit sets, or what's the little baby fruit that will be the future fruit sets. Vines are looking pretty darn healthy this year everywhere, so that all signs are pointing to a pretty good year this year.
Yeah, things seems to be lining up. I mean, again, the fruit set looks nice. We have to wait flowering to to be sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
This is the critical part, but no, you're right. I think it looks pretty nice. Nice growth, thickness on the trunks there, so it's all what we.
Yeah, weather's coming around nicely. Honestly, it's nice to see some decent temperatures moving forward. Not too hot, not too cold. The scare at this point in time in the year for the fruit set to kind of go through is cool temperatures, windy temperatures, really put a damper on the vine's ability to self-pollinate. So it looks right now like those aren't going to be issues. We're still a little ways out. We're talking a couple weeks out.
Probably 2 weeks to 3 weeks, especially with a cool front coming up next week.
Yeah. But promising stuff.
Absolutely.
Nice. So let's pop right on into the first wine today, the 2018 Picpoul Blanc.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a wrap-up on the 2018 vintage for the whites production in general. We touched on the Gap and a bit on the Grenache Blanc as well. And so now we get to try the Picpoul Blanc. Picpoul is one of my favorite grapes, I think. Not only around Paso, but in general. Picpoul is something that I grew up with. Wine or not, it is part of the southwest of France region a lot. There's definitely some in the Rhone, but actually most of the production of the Picpoul is done in the Languedoc region in France. So look for the south than the Rhone region, closer to Spain. Very warm region, actually. Super, super warm. One of the warmest region in France, so pretty close, I want to say, from what Paso can be, with maybe a touch more rain. But the style of Picpoul they do down there is very acidity driven. Very, very light, low alcohol, and just acidity is key on that. So that's the one I was familiar with a lot growing up. And I was very pleased to find it again in Paso, actually. It's something that's tough to find around the US, I feel like, although a few more producers here and there. It's getting imported, but it's definitely not as popular as other varietals.
I think it's a rapidly produced interest here in Paso Robles. There's a lot of winemakers who really enjoy working with it. Mm-hmm. It partially because it retains that acidity really well. I mean, we here on site overall tend to hold on to acidity pretty darn well. So for us, it becomes weighting the acidity out for the Picpoul. So it's not something too scathing initially. But a lot like the Reds, this Picpoul, you can really kind of farm here in Paso towards the style that you're aiming for, you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And I think the aromatics that you get out here, because it is a little warmer, you get your fruit a little more ripe that they will get back in France, for example. So they add, I think, like another layer of aromatics to the wines. So not only you have the acidity and a lighter wine, but the finish of it, I think it really comes through as the typical like Picpoul from Paso. Something that's very, very. You're looking at fruitness there. You're looking at like tropical fruits, summer fruits, something that is pushed back on the palate, but without being too thick or even sweet. Definitely not the case there.
Yeah, I mean it can be deceiving. I think it's definitely a good. Really pretty fruit on that for me. Mm-hmm. A lot of stone fruit, and then some nice bright like Meyer lemon zest on it. But with all that fruit, I feel like sometimes people are inclined to feel like it's sweet or there's some sugar in there. It's a dry white wine. And just kind of being able to get that little bit riper, I think it plays well with the acidity of the wine. You kind of have a cocktail wine versus something that I feel like if it gets too much acid on it, you're just kind of forced to either wait it out or put it up against some food to kind of get the most out of the wine.
True.
This is even for a younger Picpoul, really, really nice.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever able to age a Picpoul. It's one of those that it just gets drink real quick. So really enjoy that. This is super nice.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the winemaking, much like the Grenache Blanc, even more so than the Grenache Blanc, the Picpoul Blanc does not see new oak. Never sees new oak. This is something that's fermented in neutral oak. It might see a single once used white barrel, but even then, that's a pretty rare occasion. I feel like this is very true to that. It has a lot of purity of minerality and fruit in there. The kind of spiced honey type of thing I get from it, I feel like is more in kind of comes from the variety itself. It's something I've noticed from the wine over the years. It kind of almost might kind of mock a little bit of a sweet spice from a barrel. No barrel use that way there. Just kind of what's naturally coming from the Picpoul.
Yeah, it's super nice. I like it a lot.
All right.
So this week, we had the chef from Pier 46, local chef here back in Templeton, and actually have another location on the coast, I believe.
Yeah, it's
right?
a pair of sibling restaurants.
Okay, cool.
Also, so Pier 46, a purveyor of also some fresh fish products and stuff like that from the coast. So you can kind of go up, buy, if you want to buy yourself some nice local fresh fish, he has it there. Also a restaurant, so kind of a little dual interface there with it. He was going to be here.
I know. Turns out it's Mother's Day weekend.
It is, and what's really nice about that is it means you guys are being good to your mothers. People are ordering Mom some really awesome, really awesome
wines
or meals, because he does a really fantastic job with the seafood down there.
Absolutely.
While he could not make it in, he still got us some food his way that he felt like really played well with the Picpoul. So we'll do our best to kind of break down,
present the dish and break down the pairing for sure. I mean, we were able to visit him midweek this past week and kind of open up the wine, taste the wine, and then put up the dish together for us. So we got the dish, we got the food. We're gonna present it to you guys. And then we'll talk a little bit about it and pair it as much as well as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without the chef being there.
So, what Eric decided to go with is a set of fish tacos, grilled fish, and then oysters. Fish tacos with a white wine, I feel like, is a pretty solid. I won't say standard, but it's a good place to start. You have a lot of range in kind of how you want to put together those fish tacos and how much heat and spice you want to use versus the wine that you're pairing it with. The oysters I really liked. I know classically I go to champagne or a sparkling with something like an oyster. It has that nice acidity, kind of has a little bit of a brininess that's kind of like a like with like. The Picpoul is got that acidity and some brightness to it, and I think that you get your lemon on the oyster there, and then you got a little bit of your like with like that way, and I kind of liked that pool, something a little different than a direction I would have gone with it.
So interestingly enough, I mean the Picpoul in France, being made so dry, it is exclusively recommended to pair it with oysters. The wine is made right around the estuary in France, where all the oysters are like a good amount of produced oysters are made down there, and I mean this is meant to be paired with oysters for sure. That acidity cut the brightness that you talk about, that you get with oysters, as well as the fattiness sometimes when you stop chewing on it. So it just pairs very, very well. So I totally on board with that pairing. I love it. Probably better than champagne, actually.
All right.
But I like the champagne pairing, though. It's really good. But so super nice oysters. Love it. I'm a big fan of oysters. So, yeah, this is definitely one of the easiest favorite dish out there.
Yeah, like I said, I thought that was a really good pull for it. I wasn't familiar with. I mean, it makes sense that common thing is to pair with the local cuisine for it. So if you've got oysters and you've got Picpoul coming from the same region, then that's a classic marriage then that I was not aware of. But definitely can see it just based on the profile of Picpoul that it would be something that would be pretty complementary to what we have going on with the oysters. I think that almost where the traditional Picpoul might be a really like on like, this is kind of almost a case of there's some overlapping but then a lot of the tropical and a lot of the components that way are acting kind of in counterpoint to everything that's happening with the oyster, which I like that concept. I'm definitely much more familiar with the good old fish tacos, being a California kid and working for an extended period of time in a tequila bar and helping out in kitchens back then. I'm very familiar with throwing together all different kinds of fish tacos. And again, another nice pairing. I like grilling it. I'm not always for, especially with something like this, it kind of keeps the whole meal feeling nice and light.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the direction the chef went on this one. It is a grilled fish taco. So, again, like you said, you just don't look at something too deep fried or anything like this. Keeping it light and lean, very simple. There's a nice little sauce on it. We have descriptions, posted descriptions on websites as well. So make sure to check that out. But, Napa cabbage, cilantro, you got some lime on the side. It's just very, very refreshing. And again, it's just acidity on it. Super, super nice. That pairs, I think, very well with the Picpoul.
Perfect. You have a favorite fish for your fish taco?
I like the halibut, and I like shrimp, actually.
Shrimp tacos are fantastic, too.
Just like a ceviche style, and you just throw it into the taco there. I think works very, very well. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I'm a sucker for salmon tacos.
Salmon tacos good. I almost kind of went that direction, but I probably have to go. I mean, halibut is always a wonderful fish for a fish taco. Pretty hard to say. I mean, we've had some local rock cod, which is pretty fantastic as well for a taco.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I love the pairing. I think that works pretty well, and I think it showcases the Central Coast even more.
Absolutely.
That dish and the wine. There.
And we're getting into that kind of weather. I think we start to warm up a little bit here. I think that the meals get, for me personally, a little bit lighter. It's kind of hard to stomach anything too heavy when you've been out sweating it up all day long.
I've been on a row of salads and tomatoes and everything that's starting to become seasonal. Some of the cucumbers as well, and avocados are coming in too. So.
Nice.
This is definitely a nice addition.
Says he likes this with seared ahi tuna.
Seared ahi is another really good call.
Yeah, that is true. Anything with tuna is good. I mean, I like it very much. So yeah.
And what about the red wine? Would that be something that could pair with fish?
Well, Will would be the ideal person. You attended a seminar that was all about taking unusual proteins and kind of flipping them to match the wine on the opposite side. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right, very briefly, it was pretty interesting. The main point was kind of focusing on the components in wine that contribute to umami. So that kind of meaty, flavorful kind of thing in your mouth. And so you have a lot of glutamates in red wines in particular that are coming from the grape skins, and you can kind of pair that and beef up a seafood dish, whether you're taking like a bouillabaisse and you're really getting smoky charred tomatoes, or any type of concentrated broth or mushrooms, and kind of really leveraging that to pair. So this particular seminar featured two different Cabernet Sauvignons, classically wines that you would not think about going near seafood, and kind of because of the preparation of the seafood, really made some interesting pairings that played well off of each other.
Yeah, I mean, I could see kind of running with a mother sauce of like a tomat and coming up with something that you build with seafood that would easily play well with a red wine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and to the type of fishes that you put in as well. You mentioned the bouillabaisse in there. Traditionally it's made with like rockfish, so things that are a little more flavor than just an open sea or something that has a little more lean flesh there. So I can see that happening, and especially if you start charring and grilling things, adding some type of flavor like that on the fish, I can see a red wine pairing very well, for sure. I mean, today we're tasting the Pinot, another one of the Pinot, the Rosemary Vineyard, and I think Pinot pairs. I mean, again, I was drinking Pinots for a while, and I paired Pinot easily with any fish dish out there, just because it is that type of wine for it, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So, before we dive into the Pinot, it is that magical time, Cyril.
Question time.
Viewer question time. Keep them coming in.
Absolutely.
This is Cyril's favorite segment, and so if we run out of questions, you're going to make Cyril really sad. Cyril, it's a question for you.
Yeah, well. Make sure you ask some for this guy too, yeah? And Will as well, he can answer a few questions there. He's an interesting guy with great stories. So the question today, addressed to me, but I'm sure we can broaden it up a little bit, is how did you get started into the wine business? Boy, oh boy. Where do I start? I think, my background is hospitality, restaurants, culinary school as well back in France. So, you're always surrounded with wine. Wine is always part of the restaurant industry because, you learn how to pair a wine with a dish, so then your wine knowledge increases slowly. So I think I was always within that realm of pairing wine with food, not as much diving too deep into the winemaking itself and the vineyard and grape growing. But I moved to the US about 10 years ago now, and more into that restaurant career, and eventually I got a little tired of restaurant business. I don't know if that's familiar with you. But I grew a little tired of making finishing days at 2:00 in the morning and running 12-hour days. It's just a little step back was necessary for me, and then looking a little bit of my interests, I think wine was definitely up there real quick for me. So after that, it was just a question of finding a region where I would pretty much settle in the U.S., because every state now in the U.S. is pretty much producing wines, and so it's just a matter of finding where you want to live and be. And my girlfriend being from California, there was no way around going anywhere else than California, which I'm pretty good with. It's such a beautiful old state with such differences as well. Encompasses the best well-known regions that you can have in the U.S. as well. But I landed in Paso. I think the reason for it is just the really the open arm that wineries have out here is really what the difference is between, I feel like, the other regions in California in particular. That's because that's where I looked at. But everybody's willing to give you a shot here. And so, you two did my interview the first time. So I'm sure you guys got some great backstory on that. But it's just so interesting. And again, if you're willing to put a little bit of sweat into it and if you're interested in it, I think passion takes over skills. You can always learn something. But if you are not passionate about it, you'll never put 100% on it. So I think that's what makes the difference. And so I did not went through, I didn't do any viticulture particularly, enology just a little bit through my culinary school. But really everything else was just the wish to really deep dive into it and to learn a lot more about it specifically.
Yeah, to go to Cyril coming here and interviewing and sending something in. I wrote the post for our intern for that year, and the intern that shall not be mentioned, from from a prior year kind of motivated me in the case of my post for Cyril, that I just kind of like made it as bleak looking as possible, and did not beat around the bush that you're going to be doing hours and hours of very monotonous things that you have to treat as invigorating and pay attention to detail during these hours and hours of monotonous work, including we've talked about sorting table. You are contemplating lots of life while you're standing there sorting grapes for 10 hours in a day. Your mind goes all over the place. And so I put all of that in there, and Cyril came, I thought it was funny. I felt like you kind of thought it was funny. You got the humor behind what I was aiming at there. But someone who responds to that, shows me, this guy cares. This guy really wants to, he's willing to do all of the really work that no one thoroughly enjoys too much. And put that kind of investment in, and that absolutely does carry a lot more weight to me than necessarily knowing the small details and the intricate chemistry that's happening at any moment in time in the fermentation. So absolutely, I think I was on the same boat. Will was on the same boat. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication when you step in to do it, and a lot of work. And sometimes in the case of these couple guys here, they executed it perfectly. Overseeing every detail and doing every minute of that monotonous work that goes on to making something that 2 years, 3 years later, you're finally like, this is what we did 3 years ago. I get it now. So yeah, anyone out there thinking about that? That's the most important part. We've got a couple members here that have started working in the wine industry, started working in production in particular. It's right out to you. No truer words said than what Cyril was talking about there.
Yeah. That job description, probably out of the 20 bullet points there, probably 15 of them were just cleaning, cleaning bins, cleaning equipment, cleaning this, cleaning that, cleaning floor.
Cleaning them again.
It's like, it seems like I'm going to be cleaning all day. All right, why do I sign up?
Yeah, having a hospitality background, I know restaurant background. I know that. It's a lot of cleaning in restaurants too, especially if you're a longer running veteran with more responsibilities, you see all that kind of stuff. And if you can deal with a rush, in a larger restaurant, you've got a fighting chance for sure at dealing with a harvest rush. So nice. Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the question. So, on to the 2016 Decroux Rosemary's Vineyard Pinot Noir. That is a mouthful, but you really don't want to cut any one of those pieces out because it's all vital information. It was our third year running on it in 2016. So 14, first year for the Pinots in general. 15, we're getting a little more acclimated. 16 comes, and not only is it really beautiful fruit, it is bountiful fruit. This one particular contract was the one contract that we carried that was by the acre, and that kind of unfortunately meant early on we hit 2 years running with lower yields, so we're paying we're paying a premium essentially for that fruit. 16 hits and pays like all of that back plus some. It's the largest crop they've ever carried there. Was not low in quality. It wasn't overcropped. It was just Pinot Noir being fickle for years and years and years running, and that block in particular was known for being extra fickle. And it had a year where it just wasn't as fickle. So we got 2.5 times the crop we received the year before. So that was a shocker. You never know. Like, this is with the Pinots, it's like we know it's coming. We've asked for the pick, and then it kind of arrives on your doorstep, and then all of a sudden you know exactly what you're dealing with, how much you're dealing with. That was a little bit of like your jaw kind of drops a little bit. Like, this is more than I think we were expecting getting. I was still just sous chefing for harvest at that point in time, so I was not really the contact point for the vineyards yet, but it certainly seemed like a little more than what we anticipated coming in, but very beautiful. And because it was a little more, we could play a little more with it. We did some some stem inclusion with some of the lots. We did we fermented on some oak for some of the lots as well, and then it ended up kind of all being combined together. It was it's our most robust site. It was a very robust year. So that means like for in the world of Decroux, or under the umbrella of Decroux, we tend to aim for a little lighter style, a little more acid driven. This is the fullest mid palate for a wine. This is going to be a little higher in alcohol because it's a little warmer site. It's going to be a little more tannin on the finish, a little bigger coming swinging out the gate. And this vintage particular was kind of represented the biggest that we've worked with from them at any point in time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you say, it's a warmer site. The Decroux being a focus on the Senorita Hill in particular. This one is the Etna Valley, so it's much closer to us here. Definitely warmer, although it is a little inland, so they get some cooler time for sure. And it's part of Talley's Vineyard as well, so it's a larger producer too. But this Rosemary block, it's a very particular few acres that they have out there. Were those the original planting on the property for Talley's?
So you have like Talley Vineyard property and production site is on one side of the road,
right?
And then the family farm is on the other. And so where this block's located is you kind of go in and you pass by you drive through the farmland, which they used to do the little farm in the box delivery stuff, which all of us here have procured. And so that's fascinating, but you pass by all of that and you pass by Rosemary's house, which is the grandmother at Talley. And so you go past her house and you go there's a little slice of vineyard. And this is actually we leave Edna Valley from their location and actually go into Arroyo Grande Valley, just crossing the road and driving back to the back of the farm. Mm-hmm. So at the back of the farm, very small little blocks, mostly Chardonnay, a little bit of Pinot Noir as well. We had the block at the very, very southern end of it that kind of faced on a little bit of a northern facing slope. So a couple different rootstocks. I want to say it was all 115 for the clone. I could be wrong, but when we got this, when Jen acquired Rosemarys in 2014, when I was working here, I had several people ask me like, "Hey, how did Jen get some Pinot from Rosemarys?" They hold on to that pretty tightly. So there's a really select group of people that are allowed to kind of talk purchase for the fruit back there. So highly coveted little site, really fun little site, managed by same guy that we have as a consultant for the vineyard here, Kevin Wilkinson. Who does a fantastic job running kind of like the high-end sites here in the area. So, amazing fruit that comes from it. Yeah. The nose on the wine immediately strikes me as Rosemary's. There's always, it's a weird kind of thing that it has this all the time, but always rose petals for me with this wine. It's got a really pretty floral kind of component to it. And then just a great, nice, purity of fruit. The whole cluster in there is now kind of coming off as a really nice spice component that's in the wine as well. We recently kind of sent this off to Josh Reynolds, Venus, who scored it 95, yeah? 94? Okay, and 94, which is amazing. Really happy to get that from him. And, the Pinots in general, I know with Jeb, they've been doing really well also. Matt Kettman's been showing some love too for the Pinots, and so it's nice. It's nice to see. Like I said, this is a really fun thing to do here. We do pretty limited amounts of it. 16 represents by far the largest of what we've done, but to put that in comparison, our standard production would be about 50 cases of a vineyard site.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we have a little bit more of this, it's still a ridiculously small amount, about 100 cases or so that were produced initially. So still very limited, still limited amounts that we're working with, which presents itself, unique challenges when you're working with such small quantities and kind of tracking that through. But really, like, tasting wonderful right now, and a nice representation of. It's definitely not like the. To me, it's kind of the Rosemary's Vineyard is always represented maybe like the gateway Pinot for our TH Club members. Like, it's a nice way to start sliding into the Pinot program. Still robust. It's still got some good texture to it, and it's an ample feeling Pinot for that project. And I feel like most of you will find your way enjoying this a lot, and then maybe a little more Pinot here, a little more Pinot there. As well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that a lot. The finish is definitely the bigger Pinot that we produce here, the bigger style for sure. But I think it just showcased very nice. And being a 16, like you said, the whole cluster, the stems taste to it kind of mellowed down a little bit, but you still have that punch at the back, which is nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's tasting absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an exclusive site. It's so tiny, so small, so few people get to deal with it. It's always fun to be able to play with that. And the barrel program is very different as well compared to what we do with the rest of the
I mean, we tend to try to lean towards about 1/3 new oak, 1/3 to maybe for a bigger lot, half. But that would be more of a rarity. It tends to be a third. The Zodovich that we just released was once used and neutral, so no new oak on that. With the Pinot, I think we're always chasing like, I want the sight just to emanate from the glass. And from the moment you stick it to your nose to when you're taking a sip, it's Pinot from this particular vineyard, and there's no way you're missing that. And we poured next to Tally at World of Pinot this last year, the last event that seemed like it happened forever ago. But I drove down, poured next to that. Was talking with Eric, the winemaker over there, and Kelly, who works with them, and we definitely exchanged tastes of the Rosemarys, which was always a ton of fun because it's just it can be so expressive and you can do so many different things with it. It was a lot of fun to kind of check that out and compare. Both really enjoyable. I mean, I kind of prefer what we do, but it was really good. And there's just a ton of fun. Eric's a really fun guy to hang out with. So, another question?
Sure.
How are we sitting on time, Producer Will?
12:40.
12:40? Okay. So we'll hit one more question here. I will concoct what the gift card question will be while I answer this question at the same time. This is for both of us, Cyril and Phil.
All right.
Any tips for those getting into winemaking or those interested in wine? We kind of covered this with the first question, so I'll keep it real short on this. One tip would be get yourself plenty of exercise and get used to cleaning things, and maybe like have your significant other or a friend spray you with a hose randomly, because that's going to happen plenty. You're going to get wet. It's going to be messy. So maybe it's like you get a little boot camp going where people can randomly throw some juice at you here. You've got to run through. You maybe like find a place with a lot of bees or yellow jackets and coat yourself with some sugar and charge through that and practice, staying calm and zen when you're surrounded by bees and things like that. And yeah, get sprayed by a hose.
No, absolutely. I think on top of that as well, I think for anybody that's interested, it's the first year or the first time you do it, it's going to be overwhelming. Regardless of, I've done 1,000 lunches and dinners in restaurants, and that's overwhelming. And so you just focus on the task and you just go for it. I think the first time you do things during harvest or in a winery is about the same thing. Just put your head down and then just do the task ahead. But then after that, I think it's trying to understand all the components that may affect and change the wine and tweak the wines around. And I think that's where it gets even more interesting to learn things, what the fruit is like and what the characteristic they carry, and things you can do with the barrels and fermentations. Interestingly enough, though, I've done quite a few of the reserve tasting out here. I was surprised on how many people are trying to make wine at home, but it is a thing, and we've done his wines from his backyard this year in 5-gallon buckets.
Oh, I graduated this year to a 20-gallon brut, okay, for the home brew from the house. It's only 15 vines or so not a whole lot that way.
But yeah, I think it's one of those where is trial and error. You try to do something a little bit one way and tweak it around slightly, and then try to improve on it as well.
Build, in all sincerity, build relationships.
Yeah.
Knock on doors, email people. Find ways of getting hold of people and start lining up several doors for you to try to open. It's something that a lot of people compete towards, and a lot of people want to participate in, at least in theory. Half of those people, I'd say, at least do it one time and go, never mind. That was not something that I want to do. But hunt, and kind of, find a way to get in. I mean, just doing one harvest is going to tell you a whole heck of a lot about how much you really want to do it, and if you're bit by the bug when you do it. And despite all of the chaos, the long hours, the physical strains, you can't picture doing anything else, then building those relationships is what's going to make it feasible to get out there. And then you kind of joking, doing a home brew or something like that, find some way to do it. I think like keeping the other aspect of this industry that pulls people to it and drives people with it is the creativity. So find ways of always being able to create. I think that kind of keeps the passion going for you in it. Having some, learning in a creative manner, and exercising, what varieties you want. I mean, it's easy to get stuck also on, what we do here, but I stay in contact with everyone I went to school with, and stay in contact with people working outside the area, and try to get out and see everybody and keep a fresh perspective on what's happening in the world of wine versus just kind of in our backyard. Yeah,
and if any place, I feel again, the reason why I landed here is because of winemakers being in tasting room, winemakers being very out to the public, and it's not unusual for you to walk into a tasting room or even a property and crossing the vineyard manager or the winemaker or the assistant winemaker, and then so that's when you can just throw any questions that you got or any opportunities there is to be taken there. So that's definitely the thing to do for sure.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay, so that's the second viewer question. To your question for the gift card, 2016 Rosemarys was what was the number of vintages that we worked? I'm going to word this right. 2016 was the blank time we had used fruit from Rosemary's Vineyard.
So how long we've been using the Rosemary Vineyard?
By 16.
By 16.
We've got more vintages in there. Well, I don't know, not the easiest way to say it, but
yeah,
all the more hard. I try to just word it a little weird, see if I can throw you guys off a little bit. So some little things to close on. Again, stay Saturdays at noon for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. We will be throwing up wines, or they are currently up, that we will be covering. These next 2 blocks, we're kind of doing 2-week blocks at a time if we cut on to that. This next 2-week block is going to be focused on 5 blocks. So we will be aiming to do 17 5 blocks next week, and then the 13 and 14 5 blocks the week following. Hop on the website, hop on the Facebook events page. We'll keep that updated as regularly as possible. Like I said, I've kind of talked with 2 guests for the next upcoming thing. That's on me to try to make sure to get them in the door. But talking with some other winemakers, and then also some other local chefs, and some chefs, actually one chef from the LA area that was a longtime local chef here who's down there now. So 5 blocks up, and then following that will be the pick. And so both of those blocks of wines are up and available. We'll try to get you as much time in advance to purchase it. Weather's starting to heat up, so shipping's not always as easy to carry out. So get in there, order some of those wines, and we'll find some way to get it to you, hopefully before we're actually covering them. Check out the YouTube page, subscribe to the YouTube page. We try to repost these. We will be doing some additional video content coming up this week. One of which I'll just kind of tease, which is we've been behind on this. It's something we talked about at the beginning of quarantine, but quarantine keeps going and going and going, so it seems. And so while everybody else's book recommendations, movie recommendations, and streaming recommendations, you might have burned through those. We will have our very own coming up that we'll have on short, quick posts on social media and on YouTube, kind of going over our recommendations for a little entertainment to get you by if you're still stuck. And so keep an eye out for that. We'll try to get some vineyard stuff up, showing you. I mean, we talked about how gorgeous everything's looking, so we'll follow up with that as well. On that note, anything else you guys can think of?
No, all good for us here. Any questions came through at all? We good? We cleared all this?
We got a winner.
We do. So just the first comment, or is it first from both?
First from either.
All right. So the first comment
Was from the Instagram feed. It was from Michael Matthias 7. So we'll have to reach out.
Nice job.
To him. 3 is the correct answer. A lot of you guys got it, but it was the 3rd year that we had worked with that vineyard site.
Perfect.
Nice.
Well done. Well done. Congratulations.
And we'll be in touch,
Yeah, thanks for tuning in again, you guys. I say it week to week, but we've had a tremendous amount of orders come in. We've had a tremendous amount of support. People getting on the phones, people contacting us, people reaching out for questions, and for you guys hanging out with us for these live video feeds. Thank you so much for your support. I mean, as you can see, the lights are on. We're rocking and rolling here still, largely thanks to everything that you guys have done. So greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. I know that these aren't the easiest of times for everybody, but you guys joining with us helps break up our week a little bit, and everything that you guys have done to support is truly awe-inspiring. So thank you very much for that. We can't wait to be able to host you guys here again. We're looking forward to that, and we're planning every day towards it. So until then, we'll see you next week, and check out some of the content as we roll it out throughout the week.
Sweet. Thank you very much. See you next week.